speaking of people who are confident and sometimes confidently incorrect, Joseph Robinette Rogan. Folks, it's been a long time since I watched a Joe Rogan video on this broadcast. I feel like he's fallen off a little bit. Like, he's so hyper invested in COVID stuff. He rarely ever has like cool people on. He did have HasanAbi on recently, right? And you know, we're just going to hit the Joe Rogan thing raw. No cute girl in the studio, none of that. Just hitting it raw. Just you and me, baby. You on the other side of that screen, whether you're on a laptop, on your phone as you're delivering Amazon packages across the neighborhood, and just me. We're watching this shit. Joe Rogan apparently had a little flub and was fact-checked again in real time by Mr. Jamie.
Well, you know, there's people that voted for Biden that are doing it now. They're like, what did I do?
Right.
Like, what did I choose? Like, how is this guy?
Yeah, you just can't listen to an interview where he's saying some of the stuff he said.
Bro, this dude has literally a video game character from 2007 haircut. Like, I don't know if it's the low pixelation. I don't know what's going on. This is unironically Max Payne 1, okay? My dude's got the Max Payne 1 haircut. What the fuck? How does it stay like that? How does it stay like that? I feel like his hair is more powerful than the headphones. Like, you know how people go, haha, you have a head dent, right? Like, oh, you took your fucking headset off and you're like, oh, your hair and you're in the top of your dome, it's got a dent. It's like, no, this dude literally breaks the fucking headset with his hair. I don't know how he did it, but congratulations.
Says it just makes no sense at all. It's like you can't listen to those interviews and feel like you made a good decision. I don't know how you could.
Did you hear what he said like yesterday or a couple of days ago? He was talking about the Revolutionary War. He's like, one of the reasons why we lost the Revolutionary War, one of the problems with the Revolutionary War was they didn't have enough airports.
So this is an interesting start to the conversation, because there are a tremendous number of Biden flubs and gaffes and goofs that you could point to, because my man is a gaffe machine. My man was a gaffe machine even when he was all there, right? Great retail politician, gaffe machine across the board. There's never been a moment in Joe Brandon's career where he hasn't like said some silly shit. And also a serial liar and plagiarizer, right? That's kind of his thing. That's always been his shtick. If you track Joe Biden's career, you would recognize that he's always popped off with like plagiarism and also embellishing his past in a way that is not dissimilar to George Santos in many ways. But recently, of course, he has, he doesn't have the mental acuity that he used to have. He doesn't have the mental fortitude. He's not all there, right? In the way that you, as long as, when you get older, in the way that you see your grandparents kind of start to not have the same light behind the eyes. So there's plenty of moments that you can point to with respect to Mr. Robinette Brandon, except Joseph Robinette Rogan posted something weird. So let's take a look at what happens here.
Have you seen that?
I saw that. It's like, what the hell?
Like, pull him.
It's crazy.
If you had any other job and you were talking like that,
yeah,
they would go, hey, you're done.
A few moments later.
The same stable genius that said the biggest problem we had in the Revolutionary War is we didn't have enough airports. Whoa.
Yeah, that's it.
Whoa.
Right,
what?
Just for the record.
Is that fake?
It's not fake, but he was referencing Trump saying that. Here's what Trump saying it in 2019.
Oh.
Donald Trump said something about that, and he didn't say G.
Okay, so here's one thing that I find to be a massive mistake for the Biden campaign. Talking about Trump's mental fortitude. Now, I know there's a lot of Democratic Party dick riders in the chat who will unconditionally support the Democratic Party no matter what, and they will say things like, Joe Biden is actually all there. This is a moment where Joe Rogan fucked up. But I have a different perspective on this. But I do love Joe Rogan fucking up like this and having Jamie live fact check.
Jesus, he said a stable genius, and that's where the transcription.
Let me hear what it says. What did he say?
In June of 1775, The Continental Congress created a unified army out of the revolutionary forces encamped around Boston and New York, and named after the great George Washington, Commander-in-Chief. The Continental Army suffered a bitter winter of Valley Forge, found glory across the waters of the Delaware, and seized victory from Cornwallis of Yorktown. Our army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What? Yo. Oh, the Revolutionary Army.
So he fucked up.
Yeah, he did. But I feel like
Took over
that's
the airport.
you can tell too. It sounds like a little different. He's like, you can tell he like messed up his words, but yeah, he was just.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, never mind. Okay, got it.
I don't know.
Took over the airport.
Well, that's
Oh, come on, guys. Come on. Come on. Come on. You can say Trump says some dumb shit too. What the fuck? That's crazy.
That's the thing about media these days. It's like
right.
Oh, yeah. It's a much larger problem with media. Bitch, where are you at? You're at the Joe Rogan Experience. You are literally the media doing the wrong thing. Okay. So, what I was going to say about this piece is that there's a couple different things. First of all, you know what my perspective is, right? I do think that what do I always say? I say Donald Trump is delusional, but he's not demented, right? Whereas Joe Biden, on the other hand, comes across like he doesn't have the mental fortitude that he once had, but at least like the team holding it together demonstrates a level of stability. Now, that stability is still bad overall, like what you've seen during this saga of the Israeli ethnic cleansing of Gaza, right? That doesn't mean it's good policy, but it is actually stable. It is real stability. And it's not Brandon himself doing this stability, it's the people around him, right? So that's something to consider. Trump has always done stuff like this. He gets shit wrong all the time. But if you put Trump and Joe Biden side by side, toe to toe in a motherfucking jail cell where they're going for 30 minutes without any scripting, without any prompters, yeah, I think Trump is absolutely going to look like he is cognitively better than Joe Biden. Okay? What's really sad is that those are the two options in the United States of America in front of us. Okay? We have 800-year-old Joe Biden, who definitely is showing his age. And then you have like 799-year-old Donald Trump, who will be older than Joe Biden was when he ran for president and won, right? This time around, with definitely seemingly better mental acuity, however, is a fucking delusional, despotic psychopath who keeps getting worse and worse with his rhetoric this time around. The real argument is not 99% Hitler versus 100% Hitler. It's 99% demented versus 100% demented. Or both. Why not both? If you look at the stats, one is like 100% demented, one is 99% demented. If you look at the other stats, one is 100% Hitler, the other is 99% Hitler. It's great. It's great stuff overall. Wonderful that this is like the number one country. You know, we're the wealthiest nation on earth. We are the dominating force. We are the hegemonic superpower keeping this entire thing going. Certainly doesn't spell doom and gloom for the rest of the world and for ourselves. Regardless. No, right in George Santos. Yeah. Joe Biden is too old to be an effective president. Yeah, this is the classic conundrum. At age 78, when he took office in 2021, Joe Biden was too old to be an effective president. Donald Trump will make an excellent president when he takes office at age 78 in 2025. Exactly. I mean, I just mentioned that, right? Like, it's a race to the bottom in the worst ways possible. Donald Trump will be the same age, I think older, as a matter of fact, than Joe Biden was by a little bit when he ran and became the president. It's crazy. Anyway, why not both is literally what happened in German politics after the war, where we simply let multiple parties govern. If the numbers give no one a majority, USA should try that once to unify the country. Yeah. Okay. One is doing Hitler, one is saying Hitler, in a poetic way. They complete each other. No, the Chuck Schumer retort to Donald Trump being like, immigrants are poisoning the blood of Americans is the perfect demonstration of how the two-party structure creates the ratcheting effect that makes us basically either crawl or sprint towards full tilt fascism. One side is literally going, no, we are actually fascists, and we're so fascist that I'm just basically plagiarizing Hitler. The other side goes, oh my God, that guy's plagiarizing Hitler, except, what he's saying is true. He just shouldn't say it like that. And that, to me, is insane. I feel like whenever, in the past 10 years of my coverage of American politics, I felt like I have kept repeating the same points over and over again, reiterating it over and over again, with different cycles of like other people getting on board with what I have to say and recognizing that reality and then forgetting all about it every 4 years when MSNBC and CNN decides that, Democrats are going to maintain stability or some shit, right? People forget that. And it's like, it is at the heart of my criticism of the Democratic Party, because I criticize the Democratic Party for being too close to the Republican Party in politics. This does not mean I like the Republican Party. I like the Republican Party less than I like the Democratic Party, obviously. Okay? So, definitely very sad state of affairs. And not great. As far as the Joe Rogan thing goes, yeah, he got owned, right? He got owned, and that's great. That's fun to watch. And it's a really revealing moment. Or not revelatory. It's a really revealing moment where you look at the situation, he recognizes what's going on, and then he still is like kind of trying to defend the principles, right? And for me, revelatory is correct, actually. I know, but there's no reason to say revelatory. You can say revealing. It's easier. For me, it doesn't make sense on numerous issues. If I'm Joe Biden, I'm probably not trying to, if I'm Joe Biden or if I'm on Joe Biden's team, I'm probably not trying to talk about mental acuity at all across the board. I'm certainly not trying to lap Trump on that, because politics are very simple in many instances. In the way that people recognize you, there's a lot of feelings involved. There's a lot of just like not really thinking about things clearly and logically. It's mostly team sports. You either vote for Democrat because you're a Democrat, you feel Democrat, or you vote for Republican because your parents did and you feel a Republican, yada, 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 right? And then beyond it, there's a lot of vibes at play. And when you look at the vibes of the situation, and when you look at it and you analyze like the Biden, the vibes that Biden is putting out there and the things that Biden is saying and the way that he performs, especially when he is unscripted for a very long period of time, when he has to respond to questions, right? When he has to sit there and respond to questions, when he's like off the cuff, it looks very sad. It's very rough. And that is part of the reason why 75% of the Democratic Party did not want him to run again. I don't know if those numbers have changed recently. I'm sure that like inevitably a lot of Democrats are going to fall in line. But that still leaves a lot of people who would have voted for the Democratic Party who just don't feel enthusiastic enough to vote for the Democratic Party. Okay? And that's a big flub. That's a big mistake. And one that we should be very familiar with the Democratic Party at this point. It's kind of their modus operandi. We did this with Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, and pushing for Hillary Clinton as the candidate for the Democratic Party was a major mistake. Being incredibly confident about her chances, destroying Donald Trump, was a major mistake. Right? Many voters will be motivated to vote against Trump. Nikki Haley would easily beat Biden, though. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, Nikki Haley would, in my opinion, have a pretty solid shot here. But Nikki Haley can't get it out. Nikki Haley can't get out of the Republican Party's primaries. This is something I've brought up a bunch. The Republican Party's incredibly aggressive, incredibly reactionary far-right base of support is the base that votes in the primaries. But that base, and if you feed into that base, is going to make you nasty and icky and not exactly likable to a broader audience. The general voter population is going to look at that and go, ugh, that's too much instability for me. I remember the Trump administration. I remember the Trump years. I don't like that. I don't want to be a part of that. Okay? So, also the Dem strategy is supposed to be business as usual, but that doesn't land when your incumbent candidate for that is barely held together on a good day. Biden is the little personification of the Dems' crumbling strategy. It's really interesting to think about this because if I were to make an honest assessment, remove Biden from the equation, look at the Democratic Party's operations this time around, the last couple of like very far right things that they've done, like signaling to the crowd that they're going to be even more reactionary and more white nativist on immigration policy, beyond with those exceptions, overall on like trade protectionist policies or when trying to improve manufacturing output in this country, like the Biden administration has taken a lot of steps in the positive direction. Obviously, the bar is like way below the ground. It's beneath the ground, but I haven't mixed my words on this. I've said allowing the NLRB to operate in the way that it has so far has made the Biden administration literally more pro-labor than the Obama administration, like objectively, demonstrably, right? The Inflation Reduction Act had some pretty solid provisions in it. You have manufacturing. You have opened up a bunch of factories in different parts of the country. These are going to have very positive these are going to have very positive effects on the American economy in the next 5 to 10 years. So there's a lot going on. You also have the antitrust working on the other side as well. Don't know how positive that's going to be. I don't know if they will rein in Lena Khan in the next administration or not. But overall, there are some good things that the Biden administration has done. But the problem is the figurehead for these policies is seen as like a doddering old fool, and that's not good. Minced words, babe, not mixed. Sorry. Minced words. So it is what it is. I don't know. I think the way I look at it, the Biden administration is going to be seen as an administration full of chaos, like years later down the line. We will not remember the good gains made on any fronts And we will remember him as, and I'm not saying that this is a correct way to approach him, but many people I think will remember him as the guy who, one, genuinely facilitated the ethnic cleansing in Gaza, which continued the Trump-era policies of the Abraham Accords and moving the embassy to Jerusalem and all of that. The guy who also got us into a proxy war with Russia. Once again, this is also Russia's failure and Russia's doing, certainly, right? But this is the way that people are going to perceive him, in my opinion. If I'm to remove myself from like immediately looking at this situation and just like pull myself out of it and try to think about what people will remember, they're going to think pulling out of Afghanistan was a positive thing. I think that years later, years down the line, I think people are going to probably look at pulling out of Afghanistan as a positive thing. They'll say that was good, and then what came after is very, very bad, right? Because people don't necessarily look at the situation and analyze the situation in front of them adequately, okay? But his administration is certainly the one where, you know, the war in Ukraine happened, and that will be presented as one that is America's fault because America does involve itself in everything happening at the global stage. Okay, his administration will be remembered with Israel's actions in Gaza and allowing that to continue in the way that it did, in the way that it has. His administration, unfortunately, will be remembered as like the old man trying to steer the ship and failing to do so effectively. I don't personally believe that there's a singular guy out there who controls the government. I don't, especially not in a situation where you have Joe Biden being brought out of a fucking vat every day to deliver 2.5 hours of like, you know, media press junkets or whatever. I don't think he's like actually steering the ship regardless, but that is how people will remember him. The other thing, of course, is that Roe v. Wade was destroyed under his reign. That's another thing that people will bring up. So, I don't know. It's sad because I feel like a more charismatic, younger, more dynamic leader that didn't make some major mistakes with respect to America's foreign policy, for example, would very likely look like a really positive figure that was able to change America's course, change America's trajectory. Because there are good things that his administration did, like I said. Right? It's very weird. But I guess that's perfect for Joe Biden, who has spent his entire political career trying to triangulate the median voter, trying to always be dead center on issues from the Democratic Party. And that's precisely what has happened. And of course, it means that he is, due to the material conditions and what those conditions demand from the adults in the room, like what kind of economic stability measures have to be put in place, that is going to make whoever is steering the ship look like they are more progressive than prior administrations. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that Biden is just like incredibly fucking reactionary on, especially when we are talking about a country that has gotten way more right-wing over the course of the past 30, 40 years. I like how charitable you are, even with this ghouls, man. Thank you. I mean, yeah. I feel like people would have viewed Roe v. Wade better if Biden tried to fight it on the courts instead of being like, oh, well, I don't want to politicize the court. I think a court battle should have been fought. Court packing should have been something to like at least implement or try to implement. And those who say Sinema and Manchin fucked Biden over don't understand how inside baseball is played. Right? I'm sorry, chatters, but I know that I have a lot of pie in the sky ideas, and I'm an idealist, and sometimes that come across that sometimes people like to say, oh, what you want to happen is what you are saying can happen immediately. That's not what I'm saying at all. There's two different kinds of analysis that I engage in all the time. One is what I think should happen because it's good, and one is what I think the Democrats could be doing that they're not doing, not only because it would be good for the future of the country, but it would be good politics. I talk about politics and policy all the time. Republicans have bad policy, but very good politics. They love playing politics. Democrats, on the other hand, are supposed to have good policies. They at least advocate for good policies when they're not in a position of power, but they have horrible politics. They do horrible politics, just awful politics in general. So when I'm talking about the Democratic Party, when I put my electoralist Andy hat on, I am actually criticizing the Democratic Party as a Democratic voter. Okay? Very different than my what I think is like the moral thing for the Democratic Party to do, the courage to demonstrate moral leadership, to do the right thing, even if it might be perceived as unpopular in the short term. And as far as Manchin and Sinema goes, even without considering their political positions, here is why it was a major failure. People hate gridlocked Senate. People hate gridlocked Congress, okay? They hate it more than anything else. I can tell you after years and years of covering this stuff with 99% certainty that doesn't matter how bad a fucking bill is, okay? If you pass it fast, if you pass it swiftly, you will not expend a lot of political capital for passing it. Obviously, if the bill's impact or the changes made ruin people's lives in ways that they can experience, that's a little different. Roe v. Wade, the destruction of Roe v. Wade and the protections that it offered to women is a perfect example of like, yeah, if you pass that or if you change that, Americans' lives are going to be materially harmed immediately, and they will know that you are at fault for it, you are responsible for it. But as far as like tax cuts, for example, tax cuts on the wealthy and the entire American population, that was passed expeditiously under the Trump administration, and people did not have the time to even like gather their opinions on it. And in comparison to how much political capital was expended to pass that, right? In comparison to how much political capital was expended to pass those tax cuts, if you compare that to something that is objectively good, like Obamacare, and how long that process took, you come to the recognition that people care almost less about like the actual benefits that they got from it or the actual damages that it contributed to, and more about how long it took to pass something, right? Yeah, we should for sure let the government take more of our money. They always use it wisely. Don't worry, Bone Doc. You're going to get your fucking taxes automatically increased again because you're not a part of the top 1%. That's right. 2025, baby. You're going to be paying more in taxes next year when your fucking tax cuts get sunsetted. You know whose tax cuts are not getting sunsetted and are unironically permanent, made permanent by the Trump taxes I was talking about? Mine, jackass. You don't know what's good for you, dog. You just think about it from the perspective of like, oh man, the government's stealing my money. It's just like an incredibly reactionary opinion. Oh my God. Anyway. So, What about other tax for people like the people who have to watch the ad break at the top of the hour? Fuck you.